CBS News has learned there is unofficial communication happening between some members of the Trump administration and the Biden transition team. This is not the formal process that would usually happen. The General Services Administration still needs to ascertain Biden as the winner for that to begin. Instead, we are told the current communication is marginal, but some current and former White House officials have been in touch with the Biden transition team to offer help. CBS News White House correspondent Weijia Jiang joins me now with more. Hi, Weijia. What more can you tell us about this unofficial communication that is happening for the transition? What are you hearing?
Well, Tanya, we are hearing that they are having talks among some officials between the Trump administration and the Biden team. But as you mentioned, they are really more for practical purposes. They're talking about logistical things, not things having to do with policy or, matters of national security, for example, that really could help the Biden administration be fully prepared to go. And so these are not formal talks in any way, as the Trump administration continues to be really resistant to do that until the GSA turns over the official keys, which simply is not happening at this time at the direction we should not say at the direction of the president, but certainly taking President Trump's cues, since he has so far been refusing to concede and to offer any direction to those below him about moving forward and moving on.
And Weijia, President Trump's campaign continues to spend time and money pursuing legal challenges of the election results. They are now getting a recount in 2 counties in Wisconsin. Why do the president's lawyers continue to do this when there's no path to winning the election at this point for President Trump?
They haven't been able to explain that. In fact, Rudy Giuliani just had a press conference a short time ago, and he didn't offer any real specific details or evidence about why, they continue to fight this legal fight when, even if they were to win some of the cases, the math simply isn't there for the president to get to 270 electoral votes. So it would be helpful if they were able to spell that out, which would also offer an explanation to all of the Trump supporters who have donated their own money that could be funding some of these legal fights. But it's not just about what's happening on the logistical side, which is a continuation of these lawsuits. President Trump, as we know, really cares about the message, and in this case, perhaps the final word. So in, pursuing these legal challenges, he's able to continue to sow doubt about the outcome of the election. And, that might be how he leaves this White House, insisting that the election was stolen and that it was rigged, because, perception is very important to President Trump, and he does not want to be perceived as perhaps the thing he hates most, which is a loser.
Right. Of course, perception is very important to him. But interestingly, it's been 6 days since we've seen the president and 2 weeks since he's taken questions from reporters. Why does it appear that he's staying out of sight and not addressing the coronavirus as the country deals with this dangerous surge?
Well, there is no good explanation for that either, Tanya, unfortunately. I mean, he did have a press event to give an update on Operation Warp Speed, which is incredibly important for distributing the vaccine to Americans. But, he didn't talk about the plan between now and then. There are still several months before Americans will be able to access the vaccine in a widespread way. And so, we're hearing from our sources that the situation is dire and that task force members are urging, the president and vice president to do more with regard to public messaging and really trying to get out the message of what people should be doing and how they should be, taking this really seriously. And he hasn't been doing that. In fact, even on Twitter, while he is really engaged, again, it is mostly all about election fraud and about, why he is upset with the results.
And speaking of the task force, there will be a White House coronavirus task force press briefing this afternoon. Any word on what that will be about and who might be there?
Again, we have learned through our reporting that these task force members are stressing to the vice president, who is in charge of the task force, that we are in an incredibly dire situation that is only getting worse. So I imagine that, especially since we are just 1 week out from the Thanksgiving holiday, they want to send the message about what people should and shouldn't do with regard to gathering. And even though these are messages that they've been able to deliver in other ways, this is really the first time that people will hear directly from the members of a task force in this official capacity from the podium in several months, except for Dr. Scott Atlas, who is the president's handpicked advisor, who is a radiologist and not an expert on infectious diseases. We have heard from him a couple times, but that's very different from, people who have spent their entire lives working on something like the coronavirus. So hopefully, they do plan to talk about the situation with the latest modeling and data to show what could happen if nothing changes. And we know that at least in part, is up to 2,000 deaths a day by Christmas time.
An incredible number to digest. Weijia Jiang, thank you so much for joining us.
Sure.